My uncle said, "You're too young for this restaurant. We're selling it." So I lost everything at 17. If this story speaks to you, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. I was 17 when my grandmother died, leaving me her restaurant in her will. Rosa's Kitchen had been a neighborhood treasure in Chicago's Little Italy for 40 years. The smell of her marinara sauce still lived in my clothes, my hair, my dreams. She'd taught me everything since I was 8 years old, standing on a step stool to reach the counter. "Emma, baby," she'd whispered on her deathbed, squeezing my hand with surprising strength. "The restaurant is yours. Don't let anyone take it from you. Promise me." I promised. I should have fought harder to keep that promise. The funeral was on a Tuesday. By Friday, my uncle Marcus had called a family meeting. He'd recently married a woman named Diane, a sharp-faced real estate agent with calculating eyes, and a daughter named Chelsea from a previous marriage. They'd been married only 8 months, but Diane had already made herself comfortable in our family dynamics. "Emma, sweetheart, we need to discuss the restaurant," Uncle Marcus began, not meeting my eyes. Diane sat beside him, her hand possessively on his knee. "You're still in high school. You have college to think about. Running a restaurant is serious business." "Grandma wanted me to have it," I said, my voice small. "My father had died when I was 6. My mother worked as a nurse, pulling double shifts to keep us afloat. It was just the two of us, and in that room full of extended family, I felt completely alone." Diane leaned forward, her smile didn't match her eyes. "Of course she did, honey. But wanting something and being ready for it are two different things. Do you even know how to read a P&L statement? Do you understand health code compliance? Liquor licensing?" "I can learn," I whispered. My uncle sighed heavily. "Emma, the property needs major repairs. The kitchen equipment is outdated. We're looking at maybe $200,000 in renovations just to keep it viable. Where would that money come from?" "We could get a loan," I suggested desperately. "I could work there after school, on weekends. Mom could help." "Your mother can barely keep your own household running," Diane interrupted, her voice sharp. Then, softer, more poisonous, "We're trying to help you, Emma. Chelsea is going to Parsons School of Design in New York. Do you know how expensive that is? If we sell the restaurant now, we can invest the money wisely. You'd get your share when you turn 25. Isn't that fair?" Nothing about it felt fair, but I was 17 and surrounded by adults telling me I was wrong. My mother arrived late from her shift, still in scrubs. "What's going on?" Uncle Marcus explained their plan. I watched my mother's face harden, but when she spoke, her voice was tired. "Marcus, that restaurant was your mother's legacy to Emma. And we're protecting that legacy," Diane said smoothly, "by making sure it doesn't become a burden that ruins her future. Think about it, Sarah. Do you really want Emma spending her prime years tied to a failing business in a bad neighborhood instead of going to college?" The neighborhood wasn't bad. It was working class, real, full of families who'd been eating at Rosa's for generations. But the way Diane said it made it sound like a prison sentence. They wore my mother down over 3 weeks. She was exhausted, grieving, and Diane was relentless. Uncle Marcus had power of attorney to handle the estate temporarily. The papers were signed. Rosa's Kitchen was sold to a development company for $800,000. According to Uncle Marcus's accounting, after debts, taxes, and renovation estimates, my share would be $50,000 held in trust until I turned 25. Chelsea's fashion school tuition was $65,000 per year. The math was pretty clear where the money actually went. I stood outside Rosa's Kitchen the day the new owners took possession, watching them rip down my grandmother's hand-painted sign. A worker threw it in a dumpster like garbage. I climbed in after he left and pulled it out, dragging it home on the bus, marinara sauce recipes still echoing in my head like ghost songs. My mother found me crying in my room that night, the broken sign propped against my wall. She sat beside me, her own tears finally falling. Baby, I'm so sorry. I should have fought harder. Why didn't you? I asked, not accusing, just broken. Because I'm tired, she admitted. And because Diane made me doubt everything. She made me think I was being selfish, risking your future for sentiment. She pulled me close. But your grandmother knew what she was doing. She saw something in you I should have defended. That night, I made a decision. If I couldn't have Rosa's kitchen, I'd become so good that I'd never be dismissed as too young or not ready again. I graduated high school and enrolled in community college for business management, paying my own way with scholarship money and loans. I worked as a waitress at 3 different restaurants, studying everything: how they organized their kitchens, how they treated staff, how they priced menus, what made customers return. During my shifts, I practiced cooking at home obsessively, recreating my grandmother's recipes from memory and then expanding on them. I filled notebooks with ideas, techniques, flavor combinations. I slept 4 hours a night and lived on coffee and determination. Meanwhile, Chelsea's Instagram documented her fabulous life at Parsons. Designer outfits, trendy restaurants, fashion week parties. Diane posted constantly about her talented daughter, tagging our family members, making sure everyone saw where Rosa's kitchen money had really gone. Uncle Marcus sent me a birthday card with $50 when I turned 18. No mention of the restaurant. No acknowledgement of what had been taken. At 19, I was working as a line cook at a mid-scale Italian restaurant when Chef Antonio Rivera walked into the kitchen. He was a James Beard Award winner, doing research for a new project. He watched me prep for 10 minutes, then tasted my family meal, a pasta dish I'd made for the staff using my grandmother's technique. He set down his fork and stared at me. "Who taught you to make sauce like that?" "My grandmother," I said, my throat tight. "She owned a restaurant. Rosa's Kitchen." "I remember Rosa's," he said quietly. "Best red sauce on the south side." "What happened to it?" "My family sold it," I said, not trusting myself to say more. He studied me with sharp, intelligent eyes. "How old are you?" 19. "You want to keep cooking like this, at this level, or you want to learn how to be great?" My heart stopped. "Great. Come work for me," he said. "My restaurant, Cultura. You'll start as a prep cook. The pay is terrible. The hours are worse. But if you have what I think you have, I'll make you into something special." I started at Cultura the following Monday. Chef Rivera wasn't exaggerating, the work was brutal. 14-hour days, relentless standards, a kitchen that didn't tolerate mistakes. But it was heaven. Every day I learned something new, pushed past what I thought were my limits. Chef Rivera was demanding but never cruel. "You have instinct," he told me after 6 months. "That can't be taught. But instinct without discipline is just chaos. I'm going to teach you discipline." He did. For 2 years, I absorbed everything like a sponge. I moved from prep to pantry to fish station to meat. I learned French technique and molecular gastronomy while staying rooted in the Italian soul food my grandmother had taught me. At 21, Chef Rivera made me sous chef. The kitchen staff, all older than me, some by decades, accepted it because they'd watched me earn it. "You remind me of myself at your age," Chef Rivera said one night after service. "Hungry. Not for food, but for respect. For proof that you belong here." He paused. "Someone tried to take something from you. You're going to take back more than they ever stole." Chelsea's fashion career launched with fanfare when I was 22. Diane organized a huge show, inviting everyone in the family. Local press covered it. Rising designer Chelsea Morrison debuts bold new collection, the headlines read. I didn't go. I was working a double shift, perfecting a new dish that would eventually become my signature, my grandmother's braciole reimagined with a modern technique, honored but elevated. My mother came to the restaurant after Chelsea's show, still dressed in the outfit Diane had insisted she buy. "It was beautiful," she said, sitting at the bar while I prepped for the next day. But Emma, it felt empty. All flash, no substance. She watched me work for a moment. Your grandmother would be so proud of you. Would she? I asked, not looking up from my cutting board. I lost her restaurant. You were a child, Mom said firmly. They were adults who should have protected you. That's not your failure, baby. It's theirs. At 23, I competed in a prestigious young chef's competition in New York. Chef Rivera sponsored my entry. Out of 200 applicants, I made it to the finals. The challenge was to create a dish representing your heritage and your vision for modern cuisine. I made my grandmother's recipe. Her marinara, her meatballs, her love transformed into something new without losing its soul. I called it Rosa's Legacy. I won. The prize included $25,000 and a feature in Bon Appetit. Suddenly, food critics who'd never heard of me were making reservations at Cultura specifically to try my dishes. Chef Rivera gave me creative control over a section of the menu. You're ready, he told me 6 months later. You could work here forever and I'd be honored to have you. But Emma, you're ready to build something of your own. My voice shook. I don't have the capital. I don't have investors. Yes, you do, he said, handing me a folder. Inside were letters of interest from 3 different investment groups who'd been following my career. They believe in you. Question is, do you believe in yourself? I did. I believed in myself, in my grandmother's recipes, in everything I'd learned through the years of grinding. I started building my business plan that night. My restaurant, Emma's Table, opened in a converted warehouse space in the West Loop when I was 24. It was intimate, only 40 seats, focused on seasonal Italian cuisine with modern technique. Every dish told a story. Every ingredient mattered. The reviews were spectacular. Chicago Magazine called it the most exciting new restaurant of the year. Michelin Guide came calling. I earned my first star 6 months after opening. My mother cried when she saw the review. Baby, you did it. You really did it. But I wasn't done. I earned my second Michelin star at 26. By 28, I had 3 stars and had opened 2 more restaurants. I'd been profiled in the New York Times, appeared on Chef's Table, written a cookbook that became a bestseller. I'd been named Best Chef, Great Lakes by the James Beard Foundation. Uncle Marcus sent a congratulations card. No apology, just so proud of you, Emma, as if he'd had anything to do with my success. Diane started tagging me in Facebook posts, calling me my brilliant niece, rewriting history in real time. Chelsea's fashion career had stalled after her initial splash. Her Instagram documented increasingly desperate attempts to stay relevant, collaborations with smaller brands, pop-up shows, sample sales. I didn't pay attention. I was too busy building my empire. At 29, I was reviewing applications for a dishwasher position at Emma's Table. My general manager, James, brought me one application with a strange look on his face. You need to see this, he said. The name at the top read, Chelsea Morrison. I stared at it for a long moment, my heart suddenly racing. She'd listed her Parsons degree, some freelance design work, retail experience. Under reason for applying, she'd written, passionate about food service. Eager to learn from the best. Do you know her? James asked carefully. He knew my story, everyone on my core team did. She's my cousin, I said, my voice flat. Schedule an interview. Chelsea walked into my office 3 days later, and I watched recognition hit her like a physical blow. She'd expected to interview with a manager, not the owner. Not me. She'd changed. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by practical jeans and a plain shirt. She looked tired, thinner, the Instagram glamour completely absent. Emma, she breathed. I didn't realize, I knew this was your restaurant, but I didn't think you'd, she stopped, struggling. Sit down, Chelsea, I said calmly. She sat, clutching her purse like a lifeline. Why are you applying to be a dishwasher? I asked directly. Her face flushed. I need work. The fashion industry it's harder than I expected. Really hard. Most designers don't make it. I've been doing retail, but it's not enough to cover my student loans and rent, and she stopped herself. I'm not asking for special treatment. I know I don't deserve it. I just need a job. You know what happened to Rosa's kitchen, don't you? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. She nodded miserably. Mom told me it was necessary. That you'd get your share eventually. That you were too young. She looked up, and there were tears in her eyes. Emma, I was 15. I didn't understand what was really happening. I just knew I was going to design school, and I was excited. I didn't think about what it cost. Who it cost. Did you enjoy Parsons? I asked. Was it everything you dreamed? Yes, she whispered. Until I graduated and realized dreams don't pay rent. That talent isn't enough. That my mother had built this fantasy that couldn't survive reality. She wiped her eyes. I see what you built, Emma. I read the articles. You did this yourself. Without anyone's help. Without stealing anyone's inheritance. The words hung between us like smoke. Your mother convinced my uncle to sell my grandmother's restaurant to fund your education, I said quietly. That restaurant was worth $800,000. I received $50,000, held in trust. Did you know that? She shook her head, crying openly now. I knew it was a lot for tuition. I didn't know the specifics. I didn't ask questions because I didn't want to know the answers. I studied her, this broken version of the girl who'd smiled in Instagram photos while wearing my inheritance. The dishwasher position pays $16 an hour, I said. You'd work evening shifts, 5 days a week. It's hot, wet, thankless work. You'd be on your feet for 8 hours straight. You'd go home smelling like grease and soap. You'd be the lowest person in this kitchen hierarchy. I understand, she said. Do you? I leaned forward. Because Chelsea, everyone in this kitchen has earned their place. My sous chef worked her way up from prep cook over 6 years. My pastry chef spent a decade learning his craft. They're here because they're talented and dedicated and hungry. Are you hungry, Chelsea? Or are you just desperate? Both, she admitted, and something in her honesty caught me off guard. I thought about my grandmother. About the restaurant I'd lost. About the girl I'd been, powerless and ignored. About the woman I'd become despite everything. I'll give you a trial period, I said finally. 2 weeks. You show up on time, you work hard, you don't complain, and you don't tell anyone we're related. If you make it through that, we'll talk about making it permanent. Relief flooded her face. Thank you, Emma. I swear I won't. Don't thank me yet, I interrupted. This isn't mercy, Chelsea. This is opportunity. Whether you deserve it or not is something you'll prove yourself. She started the following Monday. I watched through the kitchen window as James showed her the dishwashing station. She looked overwhelmed, scared, completely out of her element. My head chef, Maria, approached me. That's your cousin, isn't she? The one from the story? Yes, I said. You're kinder than I would be, Maria observed. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm giving her the chance to understand what work actually means. What earning something feels like. Chelsea showed up every day. She worked quietly, efficiently, never complaining even when the kitchen got slammed and dishes piled up faster than seemed humanly possible to wash. She stayed late when needed. She asked questions about how the kitchen operated, genuinely curious. After 2 weeks, I called her into my office. She sat across from me, her hands raw from constant washing, dark circles under her eyes. You've made it through the trial period, I said. The position is yours if you want it. I want it, she said immediately. Why? I asked. You have a degree from Parsons. You could work in retail, in fashion-adjacent fields. Why do you want to wash dishes in my kitchen? She was quiet for a long moment. Because this is real, she said finally. Everything my mother built for me was a fantasy. Designer dreams funded by stolen money, connections that didn't matter, a career built on illusion. But this, she gestured around my restaurant, you built this with your own hands. It's real and solid and earned. I want to learn what that feels like. It feels like this, I said, holding up my own hands. Years of knife work had left calluses and scars. It feels like burning yourself on hot pans and cutting yourself when you're tired and crying in the walk-in cooler because you can't do it in front of your staff. It feels like sacrificing everything comfortable for something meaningful. I know I don't have the right to ask, Chelsea said carefully, but could you teach me? Not just dishwashing. Cooking. The real work. I considered her request. This wasn't part of my plan. I'd imagined her washing dishes indefinitely, learning humility through manual labor. But something in her face reminded me of myself at 17, lost, desperate to prove something, hungry for purpose. If I teach you, I said slowly, it won't be because we're family. It'll be because you earn it. You'll start at the bottom like everyone else. Prep work. Vegetable station. Fish station. Meat. You'll work every position until you understand this kitchen from the inside out. It might take years. I have time, she said. And Chelsea. I waited until she met my eyes. Your mother can never know where you work or what you're learning. This isn't about her redemption. This is about yours. She nodded, understanding. Thank you, Emma. I won't let you down. 3 months later, Chelsea was working prep. She was slow, clumsy at first, but she learned. 6 months in, she was on vegetable station. The kitchen staff started accepting her, not as my cousin, but as someone who showed up and did the work. My mother came for dinner one evening and spotted Chelsea through the kitchen window. She grabbed my arm. Emma, is that? Yes, I said. Does your uncle know? No. And he won't unless she tells him. My mother studied me carefully. What are you doing, baby? I'm giving her what no one gave me, I said. A real chance. Not money, not shortcuts. A chance to build something honestly. You're more generous than they deserve, Mom said softly. Maybe, I admitted. But Grandma taught me that food is love. That feeding people matters. That second chances are ingredients in their own right. I watched Chelsea work, her concentration complete. Besides, the best revenge isn't destroying them. It's succeeding so completely that their failure becomes irrelevant. Uncle Marcus finally called when Chelsea had been working for me for 8 months. Emma, I heard through the family that you hired Chelsea. That's wonderful. I always knew you two would make great colleagues. The rewriting of history was breathtaking in its audacity. She's learning the restaurant business, I said neutrally. That's my girl, he boomed. Always helping family. Listen, I was thinking, maybe we could all have dinner? Catch up properly? Diane would love to see your restaurant. I'm fully booked for the next 6 months, I said, which was true. But I'll keep you in mind if there's a cancellation. There was never a cancellation. Not for them. Diane found out eventually. She showed up at the restaurant unannounced, demanding to see me. James tried to stop her, but she pushed past him into the kitchen, her heels clicking on the tile floor. Emma, she called, as if we were old friends. I can't believe Chelsea didn't tell me she was working here. With family. How wonderful. The kitchen went silent. Everyone knew the story by now. They looked to me to see how I'd handle this. Diane, I said calmly, setting down my knife. You're not welcome in my kitchen. This is a workspace, not a social venue. Her smile faltered. I'm Chelsea's mother. I have every right. You have no rights here, I said, my voice cold as a walk-in freezer. Chelsea is an adult employee who earned her position through work. You're a trespasser. Leave now, or I'll have security escort you out. After everything we did for you, she hissed, her mask finally slipping. After we handled your grandmother's estate, made sure you got your share. My share, I repeated softly, and the entire kitchen heard the edge in my voice. You mean the $50,000 from an $800,000 sale? The money you held hostage until I turned 25 while you spent the rest on Chelsea's tuition? The color drained from her face. She hadn't realized Chelsea knew the numbers. Hadn't realized I'd told my staff the truth. That restaurant was falling apart, Diane said desperately. It needed someone who loved it, I interrupted. Someone my grandmother chose. Someone who would have learned and grown and made her proud. Instead, you convinced my family I was too young, too inexperienced, too incompetent. You stole my inheritance to fund your daughter's fantasy. Tears appeared in Diane's eyes, but I felt nothing. Emma, please. I thought I was helping. Marcus said. Marcus said what you told him to say, I said. Now get out of my restaurant. James appeared with 2 security guards. Diane left, her expensive heels echoing on the way out, her carefully constructed narrative shattered on my kitchen floor. Chelsea appeared from the prep area where she'd heard everything. Her face was white. Emma, I didn't know she was coming. I swear. I know, I said. Get back to work. We have service in an hour. That night, after the last customer left and the kitchen was cleaned, Chelsea found me in my office doing paperwork. She stood in the doorway uncertainly. Come in, I said. She sat down, her hands twisting together. I owe you an apology. A real one. Not just for today, but for everything. I lived off your stolen inheritance for 4 years and never questioned where the money came from. I let myself believe my mother's lies because they were comfortable. Yes, I agreed. You did. I can't give back those years, she continued. I can't undo what was done. But Emma, I want to earn my place here legitimately. Not as your cousin. Not because you're being charitable. As someone who deserves to be in your kitchen. I studied her, this girl who'd once posed in designer clothes bought with my grandmother's legacy, now wearing a prep cook's uniform she'd earned through honest work. You're still slow on your knife cuts, I said. Your bruness is inconsistent. You overseason your stocks. I know, she said. I'm working on it. But, I continued, you show up every day. You listen. You don't make the same mistake twice. And for the first time in your life, Chelsea, you're building something real. Tears filled her eyes. Thank you for giving me that chance. Don't thank me yet, I said. You've got years of work ahead of you before you're even close to running a station independently. This isn't a favor. This is accountability. She nodded, standing to leave. At the door, she paused. Emma, your grandmother would be proud of you. Not just the restaurants and the awards, but who you are. How you treat people. That's the real legacy. After she left, I sat alone in my office, surrounded by framed reviews and awards, and I let myself cry for the first time in years. For my grandmother. For the girl I'd been. For the restaurant I'd lost and the empire I'd built in its place. The next morning, I visited my grandmother's grave for the first time in months. I brought flowers and a copy of my latest cookbook. I kept my promise, Grandma, I whispered. They took Rosa's kitchen, but they couldn't take what you taught me. That's still mine. That's still ours. The wind rustled through the trees, and I swore I smelled marinara sauce. At 30, I opened my 4th restaurant. This one was different, a neighborhood place in my old Southside community, accessible and warm, serving elevated versions of traditional Italian dishes at prices working families could afford. I called it Rosa's Table. The sign was hand-painted, echoing my grandmother's original. Inside, I hung the rescued Rosa's Kitchen sign, restored and honored. Uncle Marcus came to the opening, tears streaming down his face. Emma, baby, this is beautiful. Your grandmother would love this. Would she? I asked quietly. Would she love that you sold her legacy for less than it's worth? That you let your wife manipulate you into stealing from your niece? That you've never once apologized? He stepped back as if I'd slapped him. We thought we were doing the right thing. No, I corrected. You thought you were doing the easy thing. There's a difference. I walked away, leaving him standing in the restaurant that bore my grandmother's name, a restaurant he'd have no part of, no ownership in, no claim to. Chelsea had been working for me for 2 years by then. She'd moved from prep to vegetable station to fish. She was solid, reliable, genuinely talented. She'd never be great, not like my grandmother, not like me, but she was good, and she was real. What do you want, long term? I asked her one evening after a particularly brutal service. She considered the question carefully. I want to be your sous chef, she said. Not because of family. Because I earned it. Even if it takes 10 years. It'll take at least 5, I said honestly. Maybe more. You've got the dedication now, but you need experience. You need to understand every position, every pressure point, every crisis this kitchen might face. Then that's what I'll do, she said simply. My mother joined us for family meal that night, a tradition where the entire staff ate together before service. She sat between me and Chelsea, serving herself from the pasta dish Chelsea had prepared. This is good, baby, Mom said to Chelsea, surprising both of us with the endearment. Your skills are really developing. Chelsea beamed with pride I'd never seen on her face before, not at fashion shows or in Instagram photos, but here, earning praise for work done with her own hands. You know, my mother said softly, looking at me, your grandmother always said the best revenge is feeding people so well they forget their anger. She didn't mean letting people who hurt you off the hook. She meant building something so beautiful that the past becomes irrelevant. I looked around Rosa's table at the staff I'd trained, the customers I'd fed, the community I'd served, the cousin I'd taught. At the empire I'd built from stolen dreams and my grandmother's whispered recipes. I'm not angry anymore, I realized, saying it out loud for the first time. I'm grateful. They took one restaurant and taught me I could build 5. They stole my inheritance and taught me to create my own legacy. They told me I was too young and too inexperienced, and I believed them just long enough to prove them catastrophically wrong. Chelsea squeezed my hand. You taught me that work matters more than connections. That honest labor beats hollow privilege. That the best fashion statement is a chef's coat you earned the right to wear. I squeezed back, surprised to realize I meant it when I said, welcome to the family, cousin. The real one. The one we choose. That night, I stood in Rosa's table after closing, looking at my grandmother's original sign hanging on the wall. My phone buzzed with a message from a food critic wanting to review my newest restaurant. Another message from a culinary school asking me to speak. A third from a publisher interested in my next cookbook. But what made me smile was the photo Chelsea had just posted on her private Instagram, not the public one her mother still monitored, but the real one, shared with friends who knew the truth. It was a picture of her hands, scarred and calloused from kitchen work, holding a perfectly diced onion. The caption read, 2 years ago I couldn't boil water. Today I prepped 50 pounds of vegetables without crying once, from the onions or the work. Thanks to the best teacher I never deserved. #earned not given #Rosa's table. I didn't comment. Didn't like it. Just saved it to my phone as a reminder that sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't destroying your enemies, it's transforming them into people who finally understand what they stole, what they lost, and what real work actually means. My grandmother used to say, Emma, baby, the secret to great sauce is time and patience. You can't rush it. You can't force it. You let it simmer low and slow until all the flavors marry and become something more than their individual ingredients. I'd thought she was just talking about marinara. But standing in the restaurant that bore her name, surrounded by the empire I'd built from her stolen legacy, I finally understood. She wasn't teaching me to cook. She was teaching me to live. And I'd done both spectacularly well. Tomorrow, Chelsea would arrive at dawn to start prep. She'd work harder than everyone else because she had more to prove. She'd make mistakes and learn from them. She'd grow, slowly, into someone real. And I'd be there to guide her, not because she deserved it, but because my grandmother had taught me that feeding people with food, with knowledge, with second chances was the highest calling. That was the real inheritance. They never stole that at all. I turned off the lights in Rosa's table, locked the door, and walked home through Chicago streets that had watched me struggle and rise. Tomorrow I'd do it again, teach, cook, build, feed. Tomorrow Chelsea would show up and put in the work. Tomorrow my mother would be proud. Tomorrow my grandmother's legacy would live in every dish I created. But tonight, right now, I was simply Emma. The girl who lost everything and built it back better. The chef who turned stolen dreams into Michelin stars. The woman who learned that the best revenge is a life so well lived that the people who wronged you become footnotes in your success story. And that, I thought, smiling as I walked home through the city lights, is a dish best served at the perfect temperature, not cold, but with the warm satisfaction of a perfectly executed recipe. The end.